Technology, and since I like to talk movies, I thought the best way to do that would be to go live, so therefore some of you can actually interact with me in the chat section. So I have no idea if this is working, how this is going to work, but here I am live, ready to experiment with YouTube Live and its settings. So with all that said, let's just get right into talking about movies. So this week we've gotten several exciting trailers have dropped. The one that I made a video about a few days back with my kids was Beauty and the Beast. In the comment section, some people pointed out perhaps the best way to watch a trailer isn't with kids that are pulling on your hair, talking over it, asking to do other things, and not interested in watching the trailer. To that, I would say, well, duh. But at the same time, when I do these trailer reaction videos, I actually don't understand the appeal, why anyone would want to watch me watching a trailer. So I always try and do something interesting with it, bring my kids into it, anything that would make it a bit more exciting on my end to do them. And so I could understand a little bit better why someone else would enjoy watching what I'm doing. So I bring my kids into it, and I've rewatched the trailer many times, watched it on my TV, tried to show it to my kids again. That had the same level of success as it did before, but I at least tried again. And overall, my feeling on it is that it's a trailer that shows you what you expect to see from this property, which is a live adaptation of the cartoon. Now, in the last 4 days, I've watched that cartoon with my kids multiple times, but like it just shows you exactly what you need to see. It doesn't embarrass itself. It doesn't look bad. It's just kind of like, okay, that is what this cartoon would look like live action, with a big budget, with a bunch of A-list actors, actresses, the people that you would expect them to cast in something like this. So, is that good? Yeah. Is that great? We'll see. Does it blow my mind? Does it wow me? Well, it's tough for it to wow me when essentially what it's trying to be is just a live adaptation of something I've seen before. So I'm not going to be wowed if I see that. If it accomplishes its goal, I'll go, oh, there you go. You did exactly what you said you were going to do. That's not wow-inducing. Wow-inducing, it has to be something unexpected, surprising. I wasn't seeing that coming. By the very nature of this, I of course can tell what's coming. I know what to expect. So therefore, I'm not exactly wowed by it. But speaking of trailers, a second trailer also dropped this week that was a little bit more interesting to me, which was the Kong Skull Island trailer. Now, which was a better trailer? I don't know. I don't know why you would even want to compare these two things. But which one intrigued me more and sparked my interest a little bit more would be the Kong Skull Island trailer. So if you haven't seen the trailer, essentially it's about set during the Vietnam War. There's an island, Skull Island, where Kong is at, and some Vietnam soldiers end up on this island and hijinks ensue. That's what the trailer shows. And what I liked about it is that it was fun. It had a spark to it that was more lively than I was anticipating, because we've gotten so many of these kind of adaptations, and so we got Godzilla a few years back, which I liked, but it was just kind of like this somber thing where you're just remembering like Bryan Cranston doing these dramatic screams like, there's something out there, why isn't anyone listening to me? Like, just so dramatic and serious, and it's about a monster that destroys cities and battles other monsters. And then we got, like Tarzan, not really the same thing, but we got Tarzan this past summer, which I enjoyed it once again, but it was just so serious, deadly serious. Everything about it was just like somber in tone, and luckily you had Samuel L. Jackson in there to lighten the tone a little bit up. So when this trailer rolls around and it kicks off and it's got kind of a fun vibe to it from the get-go, and early on we're seeing that Kong is all throughout this whole movie. It's not like a wait till the end. He's there and he's like smashing helicopters with trees. I don't know if John C. Reilly necessarily fits in the movie. I don't know. He felt a little bit odd to me in this, but at the same time had a funness to it. So I'm going, man, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if this is going to be a great movie, but it looks like it's going to be a fun movie. And they're not just trying to be so serious the whole time and somber and like, what if this really happened? What if a bunch of Vietnam soldiers ended up on an island and there was a... Who wants that? Like, I want like a fun movie. Like the best scene in Peter Jackson's King Kong movie was the one where he's fighting the dinosaurs and they're like falling out. It's this incredible sequence because it's King Kong battling T-Rexes. That's awesome. And that's, kind of what I expect from this sort of movie. And so this one felt like that. I felt like I'm going to get the stuff I want, some humor in it, fun to it. And it does have a seriousness to it. It's not like it was just jokey, not just a comical tone, but it wasn't just so self-serious that it bothered me. So I really appreciated that about the movie. So like I said, comparing these two trailers, so we got a couple trailers, different nature, but both of them adaptations of sorts of something that we've seen before on screen. With Beauty and the Beast, it couldn't really wow. It was really hard for it to wow me because I know exactly what I'm getting. If it veered too far away from being an adaptation of the cartoon, I'd be like, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing what you said you were going to be, which is a live version of this movie I've seen? But that's what makes it tricky in that they have to provide essentially exactly what I'm anticipating. That's my problem with it. That's my issue. Whereas with Kong, I mean, I don't really have expectations. And so I start watching. It was like, okay, this actually looks kind of fun and interesting. And I can see how this could tie into the Godzilla universe because I guess they're going to do a crossover movie for some reason. But you can see how it tie in and the tones aren't so different. But it's different enough that you can see the fun in it. So I really appreciated that. Up next, my voice just cracked. That's the stuff that you're going to get on these amazing live videos. I'm assuming this is working. I don't actually know. I don't know if anyone's watching live or how I would see that. Let's see. I don't see anyone in the comments section at the moment leaving comments. So if you're seeing this, if you could leave a comment just so I could tell if this is working. Anyway, just in case no one is going to watch live, but this is still going to go up on the YouTubes, I'll just move forward anyway. So, they announced yesterday that Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones is cast in an unspecified role in the Han Solo solo movie. Which I'm sure I'm going to keep saying Han Solo solo movie, which is a terrible way to describe it, but my brain just keeps doing that. So, she's cast in this movie. Which, what do I think about that? Well, I think she's a good enough actress. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I saw her in Terminator Genesis, and she, I guess, was good enough in it. It was one of those movies that the movie wasn't good enough to be able to tell if I appreciate her performance or what, or where she was weak, if that was the fault of the movie, the script, the director, as opposed to her. But she seems like a good enough actress. And so casting her in a Star Wars movie, generally speaking, on the level of does she have the talent to be in a movie of this size? Sure. That, I guess. The problem I have kind of with this, it was kind of one of those casting announcements that I heard it and I was like, okay, another one of these actors, actresses that is kind of like the flavor of the year or the last couple years, where they have these actors, actresses that they just kind of keep throwing into franchise after franchise, and sometimes it works. Like Chris Pratt gets thrown into a Marvel movie, he gets thrown into a Jurassic World movie, he's got the Lego movie, so he's thrown into all this stuff, and I think it's worked great for him. And he's in an adaptation remake of Magnificent Seven. Thus far, this has worked for him. And then you've got the Sam Worthingtons who throw into a Terminator movie, throw him into Avatar, and then he disappears. And, the Jai Courtney's the guy that, he's in every franchise and nobody is his fan. And they just keep throwing him into these movies for some reason. I don't know who his manager is, how much money Jai Courtney's manager has, but he keeps getting thrown into this stuff. So then we get to Emilia Clarke. And so she is on this hit TV show. People love her on there. I think they do. So then they give her Terminator. Doesn't go so well. No one's pointing fingers at her. It's not like she ruined it, but doesn't go so well. So right there, we got, notice that pattern, all this, which is the Terminator movies that these stars of the week, Sam Worthington, Jai Courtney, and her now, all have connections to Terminator movies. But so now her new thing, Star Wars. So she's thrown into it. And so right off the bat, that was my first thought of like, are they just turning her into one of those people that just like these franchise machine deals where you're going to be a franchise star and as soon as we need a character for a Star Wars movie, throw her in there. And next thing, we're going to announce it 2 months from now, she's going to be in a new Marvel movie. All right. That's what this feels like to me. It kind of drives me nuts. There's so many talented actors, actresses. There's so many other faces, but it's like they keep trying to do the star thing. But worse than that, it's because like Will Smith came out of nowhere and became this gigantic star back in the 90s. So then they threw him in all these movies because he could sell a movie. It's like they're still trying to do that, except they're deciding who's going to be the big stars as opposed to people earning that and then becoming these franchise deals. Like, once again, Jai Courtney thrown into so many franchises and nobody seems to like him all that much. So, like, why are they doing it? I don't know. And these movies haven't been great either. So don't really know why they're doing it. So that's the first issue. This whole franchise, just throw in the name of the week person into the movie. That's an issue. Issue number 2 I have is that more and more the cast for this Han Solo movie is feeling a little bit too much like people of the week playing dress up in these characters that we're familiar with. Or like I'm going to feel like I'm watching a movie. So what worked really nicely for The Force Awakens is that I didn't know who John Boyega was. I hadn't seen him attack the block. Very few people had. I saw him in he was in 2 episodes of 24. So I'd seen him in that. Totally different character. So you wouldn't even notice it. And you got Daisy Ridley. I'd never seen her in anything before. Oscar Isaacs, he'd been in some stuff, but he kind of disappears a little bit into his roles. He's pretty good about that. Adam Driver, never seen him in anything because I'm not a weirdo that watches girls. So I had never seen him in anything. So all these new people are brand new to me. Just totally new. Hadn't seen them before. So all fresh experiences. And so I could just buy them in this world, in these roles. And then we look at the casting for this Han Solo movie. And I don't know who this guy is playing Han Solo, so thumbs up for that. But then they cast Lando, and it's a guy that I've seen on Community in, 150 episodes. And familiar with Childish Gambino, so I'm familiar with his music. I've seen him in all this stuff. I'm familiar with him, and I've seen him just because of watching a TV show in 150 episodes. I've seen him play other stuff a lot. I see him as this other character. So then he cast as Lando. So immediately my brain's going, I'm feeling like I'm watching someone playing Lando as opposed to seeing Lando. And I'm seeing a face that I'm just used to seeing and stuff. And then once again, we get to casting Emilia Clarke. So I haven't seen her in a whole lot of stuff. And since I haven't watched Game of Thrones, it's not even seen her in any one role all that much that I personally identify her with a role. But I identify her as a movie star that gets thrown into stuff all the time. And that's what we see here once again. And so that's where I'm kind of nervous about this casting. It's not that she's bad. It's not that I think that she's great or good. It's just much more along the lines of, okay, I'm not quite sure I get this. Not quite sure that this is the direction that I want Star Wars to go, and that they're casting a bunch of up-and-comers to be in everything, a bunch of familiar faces. I thought they did a better job based off what we're seeing thus far, just based off of information, press releases, not seeing actual performances. I thought The Force Awakens did a better job of picking people that I wasn't familiar with, and that most people wouldn't be familiar with, whereas Game of Thrones is one of those iconic shows of right now. You don't have to watch Game of Thrones to be familiar with who she is, because it's that popular. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm going to check once again to see if I can find if there's comments, people in here watching. Anything I watch? Okay, Rachel Wagner says, I haven't liked Emilia Clarke in anything, but don't watch Game of Thrones. That's kind of where I'm at too, of I don't watch Game of Thrones, so the one thing that I'm familiar with her in is Terminator Genesis. So that's not a great sample of, is she good, how compelling? I don't know. And so then just seeing her in Star Wars, it's got me nervous. That doesn't jump out at me as something that I am pumped and excited to see. So next up of topics I kind of had picked out. Read an article yesterday saying that they have canceled a reboot of Stargate. And some people were speculation, is this because of Independence Day's failure? So the connection there is they're both 90s movies directed by Roland Emmerich. Beyond that, I don't know why to the general public anyone would kind of compare, put these two things together. I know who directed Stargate, most people don't know who directed Stargate. Most people, it's kind of like this footnote of like, or it's like for if you're a sci-fi fan, if you're really into this kind of thing, then you remember Stargate even more so for like the TV shows than the movie. And if you're more of a movie person, it's just kind of like, okay, that enjoyable enough sci-fi action movie from 22 years ago. You don't think, oh, this is that movie directed by the guy that went on to direct all of those terrible end of the world movies. You don't think that. You think about it for what it is, just because it doesn't feel like his other movies. So I don't think this cancellation has anything to do with Independence Day other than maybe Hollywood is starting to figure out, hey, maybe the best idea isn't to just pick franchises from 20 years ago, from 30 years ago, and do a reboot just because we think it'll be successful. Maybe that's not such a good idea. And hopefully that's what they're starting to figure out. And like with Stargate, we've seen so much Stargate already because they had like 3 TV shows out of it. And the first one, the main one, ran for like 10 years. There's been an enormous amount of Stargate out there. If you're into Stargate, you've got it. You don't need to have another reboot of the film series. And even like the movie's 22 years old, but the series and the TV shows only ended not too many years ago. Like within the last 10 years is when they ended. And so it's not, there's all that big of a gap for the actual built-in Stargate audience. And so it seems like it always struck me as an odd movie to remake. And it aged pretty well because they didn't try and, with the special effects that are in it, they didn't try and go beyond what they could really do. And so if you like the concept of it, of aliens coming and being responsible for the pyramids and these Stargates that take you to different planets, if you like all of that, that movie holds up well. And it's got a great cast with Kurt Russell, the one of the guys from Third Rock from the Sun, and then of course James Spader in it. Like, just, it has a great cast. It holds up well if that's a movie you'd be interested in. So you don't, and it doesn't need the modern day blockbuster treatment with a CGI fest. That's not what the movie was. So it struck me as odd when they're planning on doing it anyway. So yeah, it's all interesting to me. Let's see, Rachel Wagner had a few more comments. She said, "I hated Me Before You. I did not see it. I believe my wife read the book. I believe it's based off of a book, and she went to go see it. Maybe that happened. Maybe I'm making all this up. Maybe I don't know what's going on right now, but." Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't watched it, so I couldn't compare it, couldn't comment on it, except to say that even that hurt. Sure, let's put her in another one of these movies. Let's put her in this. Let's put her in this. And when I see stuff like that, it starts to annoy me. And let's see. Next, Rachel had to say, yeah, but Hollywood is a what have you done for me lately town, and Emmerich's lately is terrible. That is very true. Yes, Hollywood only really pays attention to what people have done lately, and yeah, to that level of the idea of his output as of recently, not just Independence Day, but even the last several years before that. I don't remember when the last time he did have something good, something that was strong, and so I guess to that point, yes, that is very true that he has not done much for us lately. He has not made anything good recently, and his last one, which would be of the same nature of redoing his old stuff, did not turn out so well. Last thing I wanted to talk about is one that's kind of off subject, kind of on subject, but it's been annoying me, and that is I have just been so frustrated by getting on the Twitter, getting on the Facebook, and every day there's some new update on some ridiculous thing the celebrity has said about about Trump getting elected, followed by Trump saying even dumber things in response to celebrities not liking him, not liking Pence. And is it just me, or is anyone else just tired of, like, why are we talking about this? Like, why are we on the level that we're talking about it? Like, the news for today is that Mike Pence, Vice President-elect, went to go see Hamilton. People started booing him. So then the cast then gave a speech to Pence at the end of the performance. And then Donald Trump went on Twitter, just the most ludicrous situation. Like, really? What is wrong with us as a culture that this is what's going on? That we're just like talking about all this bizarre stuff just going on, and we're not talking about any of the real issues. We're not talking about things that actually matter, and all of it is so superficial, and it's, like I said, Trump's getting in on the action too and just perpetuating the whole thing. Rachel Wagner says the hypocrisy is most of those celebrities would have begged to be on his show. Yep. Right. I mean, there's so many levels to the whole thing of the hypocrisy of it, the silliness of it, that everybody wants to be a part of it and they want the fame. And some of it, it's just driving me nuts, the level to which people are having these extreme opinions. Like I listened to a podcast called Script Notes. And it's about screenwriting, for screenwriters, by screenwriters. So it's John August, who's written a lot of the scripts for Tim Burton movies over the last 15 years, and Craig Mazin, whose claim to fame is writing Hangover 2 and 3. So yeah, very similar careers. And so and it's really interesting because you get a lot about how to write, how to do storytelling, just some really good insight from people that do it. But as well as that, you get a lot of understanding of the world of screenwriters and the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of it we don't get to see. And in that, they talk about a lot of stuff going on. And then randomly, 2 days after the election, they do a podcast that's 15 minutes long that's just about like this feeling will pass. And it's like, wait, what? Wait, like this podcast is about writing and about movies. And then they did one kind of just how sad they were that Trump was elected. And in it, at one point in time in it, they start talking about how them being baby boom or Generation X, they're Generation X, they're born in the 70s. They go, we were born in the 70s, and so we missed Vietnam, and we missed World War II, and we missed World War I, and we didn't have the Civil War. Like, we haven't had a lot of hard things like that. And they actually say in this is one of the hardest things that our generation has had to face. They said that. Like, they compared the election of Trump to Vietnam, World War II, World War I, and the Civil War as like the hardest thing that Generation X has had to face and will have to face. And I just, like, I read that, heard that, and I was like, what? Come on. Like, this is the stuff that's like making everyone so frustrated, is how over the top all the language is. Like, everything Trump's saying is ridiculous and over the top, and everyone's response to it is just as equally over the top. Rachel Wagner says, a lot of celebrities are realizing their opinion doesn't matter like they thought it did. And that is so true. Or it matters in the reverse way. Because like for me, the more ridiculous they get, the more unsympathetic I get to their point. Like when I hear two rich white guys that write scripts for Hollywood and have a loud voice, and they're like, the hardest thing that we're facing is Trump getting elected. I hear that and just think to myself, you're so out of touch with reality if that's what you're thinking. Now, I understand Trump said some terrible things and there's some fear and there's frustration. Like, all of that is legitimate. But that's not the same thing as comparing it to actual war where thousands and tens of thousands of people died. And those kinds of statements and behavior and everything that we're seeing from celebrities that think that people really care what they have to say is showing just how clearly out of touch they are from where most people are in terms of just kind of wanting to get on with life and the realities that things people are actually facing in all of this. And so anyway, I want to talk about that real quick because it's basically because everywhere I turn, like if I get on Twitter, there's another person, celebrity saying something like, I'm ashamed of our country after people retweet, and then Trump joins back in. I was like, what is the world coming to that politicians are crazy, celebrities are crazy, and it's just driving me nuts. I get on Facebook, and so John Campea from Collider Movie Talk, He has just been talking about politics for about 2 months straight on his personal account. Totally his right to do that. But I mean, he's like talking about the Electoral College and talking about Trump and all, I mean, just every single day, just going on and on and on about it. And you can just see that that's the world that's going on in California, that everyone's just freaking out about this. Whereas I'm in Texas, and the conversation from everyone that I've talked to is either this is hilarious because is this real? And people that didn't vote for Trump, I didn't vote for Trump. People that didn't vote for Trump, and everyone just thinks it's hilarious and bizarre what's going on. And so Rachel Wagner says, hey, yeah, ridiculous. SNL has a mournful song in response when they had Trump as a host months ago. Had the mournful song in response when they had Trump as a host months ago. Hypocrites. Exactly. I mean, just sort of this out of touch, like, reality that you'll have him on when you think it will make you money, but as soon as he wins and you're like, oh, this is real, it's not a joke anymore. And they do like the most melodramatic. I mean, it's the most I've laughed at something Saturday Night Live has done in years. And it was meant to be dead serious. And it's, the lady dressed as Hillary playing Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah on a piano and like winking at the camera. And then at the end, she turns to the camera and goes, I'm not giving up. And neither should you. And just watching it, thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this is the worst / hilarious. And what makes me frustrated by all of it is that there's a legitimate concern to be had about Trump being elected. I never was going to vote for him. And then as further and things were revealed, as things got closer and closer, it was like, I mean, this guy could be a sexual deviant, likely is a sexual deviant. He's disqualified himself as a decent person long ago with the things that he says. Like, there's legitimate things for us to be discussing. But that's not what all these celebrities are doing. They're treating it as if Clinton was this great option and America's gone crazy and just throwing labels at the rest of the country. You're racist, you're xenophobe, sexist, all this stuff. That they're not listening to the whole batch of issues going on here. There's reasons that people did not like Clinton. There's reasons that people reluctantly voted for Trump, and it has nothing to do with anything that any one of these celebrities has ever said. And just to kind of end off my, ranting about all this, we've had bad presidents before, and to think that Trump's going to be able to ruin our country, ruin our democracy, is to give him way too much credit and to give our form of government way too little credit. So let's get back in reality that even if he is the worst, our government isn't. It has checks and balances. And if you're afraid that things will fall apart because he is so crazy and has so many bad ideas, all you're really doing is acknowledging that we've given the president too much power over the last 20 or so years. Celebrities and their opinions. I hope it dies down. I just want, like, Mike Pence going to Hamilton not be news. That let's just let it die down. Let's stop with all of the hyperbole and nonsense and get back to your entertainers. You're not people that need to have opinions on everything. You don't have great insight into what normal people deal with because you're millionaires that are famous, so you can't relate to us at all because we can't relate to you at all. You pretend to be people for a living. Probably not the best perspective to have on what's best for 350 billion people. So anyway, there we have it. There's my first batch where I want to be significantly less formal in these types of videos where I go off on rants about whatever dumb stuff's going on because I wouldn't want to make a video that I'm editing and all that, talking about some of this stuff. And I want to be able to talk about more things. This format enables me to do that because I don't have to edit it, which is amazing. I just make a thumbnail, plop it in here. Actually, I guess whenever I started this, I accidentally went live a couple of times, and so now that I think I figured out a little bit better how it works, I think I'm going to try and do this about once a week and just kind of give my thoughts on what happened in the week with movies. This time, I believe it tells me I have 2 people watching. I only had one person commenting, Rachel, she says, I enjoy your thoughts. Thank you much. I enjoy your thoughts too. And this is fun. It's actually really stressful in its own. It's less stressful in that I can just, it's done. I don't have to worry about it, but it's more stressful in that I'm like trying to remember what I want to say. And then there's comments. So I'm trying to track along with it, trying to remember to look here and not down here. But yeah, this is interesting. So I want to talk movies. I don't want to just talk movies by myself. I want to talk movies with you. Hopefully in the future we can have some lively stuff as I figure out how to do this better. But thank you much for watching. As always, if you have any comments, join us in the comments section because I try to respond to everything. I really want to interact with people. That's what I'm kind of all about. If you're new to this and you thought this was a little bit weird and rambly, most of my videos aren't quite like this, though I want to do videos like this. Please consider clicking that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it.